The Shattergang Brothers. These little guys always make me think of our favorite plumber and his mustachioed brother. But whereas Mario and Luigi are often out there solving problems and saving the day, this band of brothers is often the root cause of many headaches for my playgroup. The deck list I will be providing is none other than a good friend of mine's, so without further ado, let's have a look. This is Shattergang Brothers. Utilizing what is undoubtedly my favorite color pairing in all of Magic, this troublesome trio costs 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 red, and 1 green. They have 3 power and 3 toughness, and a complement of 3 abilities, each focused on sacrificing something you control. For 2 colorless and a black mana, you sacrifice a creature and each opponent must sacrifice a creature. For 2 colorless and a red mana, you sacrifice an artifact and each opponent must sacrifice an artifact. And lastly, no big surprise, for 2 colorless and 1 green mana, you sacrifice an enchantment, and guess what opponents do? So with that all said and done, oftentimes we can trade one of our blank for between 1 to 3 of our opponents. The Shattergang Brothers offer us a great deal of removal in terms of flexibility and recursion, being able to do things over and over again as long as we have the resources to sacrifice as well. While not as aggro-centric or aggressive like other Jund commanders, the Shattergang Brothers lend themselves very well to a control/stacks type deck. Your first few turns should be about ramping. Since we have green in our commander, we have access to many good spells and creatures that do that for us. The Signets, in particular, are incredibly good inclusions, since they will ramp us early on and provide us with artifacts to sacrifice later on in the game. Similarly, the Wellsprings, both Ichor and Mycosynth, can also help give us early advantage and sit perfectly fine on the board until we need them. You're also going to want to set up some early card draw, since you'll be sacrificing your own resources to punish opponents. Deathreap Ritual will turn those sacrificed creatures into card draw, which can really help us stabilize near mid-game. Like most early decks, basically don't do anything to stir the pot. Use removal defensively, cast unoffensive spells, and in general, make sure you hit every land drop that you can. By mid-game, depending on how you start, you'll start to see other players pulling ahead. If that player is you, congratulations. But be warned, people will start popping off your permanents if you get too big for your own good. However, if you're not that leading player, you should be playing it cool, by now and again sacrificing permanents with the brothers, mainly forcing the leader to get rid of crucial cards to his strategy. Most of your opponents shouldn't take losing their own creatures/artifacts/enchantments too badly as long as you're clear that you're doing it to help the table. I like to call this subtle stacks, since you're slowly draining people's resources all under the pretense of making the game fair. You can also slowly start to roll out some of your heavy hitters at this point. Smokestacks, Shouldered the Whispering One, and Archfiend of Depravity can take some people by surprise. Smokestack in particular can have a warping effect on the game. Having to sacrifice lands to save creatures, or vice versa, can be a huge decision mid-game for most players. It'll change the face of the late game, as those earlier aggressive spells they may have cast for building towards a win are now useless. You can consider playing these threats early game, but from my experience, especially in a multiplayer format, unless you can guarantee that whatever you drop will stick around, it's usually very likely that one of the other 3 players will have or draw an answer to it. By now, life totals are different. No one's at 40. Things have been sacrificed, people are mad. You've made them sacrifice lands, creatures, enchantments, and artifacts. You've pinged at their life totals, you've disrupted their hand, and just all around been a general awful help to their winning strategies. Well, guess what? You're going to do more of it. You're going to do more of it, and you're going to do it meaner. You're going to make your opponents wish that they could go back to just sacrificing things. At this point, we're in the late game. This is where you drop your payload, punishing effects like Zulaport Cutthroat, Massacre Worm, Blood Artist, and Vicious Shadows all are going to make a lot of people take a lot of damage to the face, all while they're losing their own creatures. Furthermore, we're going to continue to drop bombs in the form of Avenger of Zendikar, Dragon Broodmother, and Grave Titan, all of which provide tokens and can swing hard and provide us with a surplus of sacrificial lambs. You can also go big with Rise of the Dark Realms to further rub those earlier deaths in your opponent's faces. It doesn't matter if the creatures they were playing were small, they're yours now. You get to sacrifice them, use their enter the battlefield effects, and best of all, you get to attack them with their own creatures. This is deeply satisfying. All in all, the Shattergang Brothers pair up a really fun combination of colors and cards and lend themselves to a very unique kind of playstyle. Now let's look at synergistic cards for the deck. One of the strongest resources, besides lands for the deck, is tokens. Being able to have an inexhaustible supply of these little buggers can really work in our favor, as they can act offensively or defensively. If our opponents have no board, swing in with them. If they do, sacrifice them to get around those big creatures. Either way, they're great. Creatures with leave the battlefield effects, or when another creature dies effects, are workhorses for this deck. Things are going to die. Things are going to die a lot, so you might as well reap as much of the benefit as you can from it. Graveyard recursion is also a must. Cards like Gliss of the Trader, Trading Post, Junk Diver, and Mere Retriever can let us utilize our graveyard in ways people don't typically expect a Jund-based general to do. Furthermore, if you're feeling gutsy, you can also use the Life from the Loan plus Cycle Lands combo to help fill up our graveyard and give us more choices. Other than tokens, one of the strongest types of cards in the decks are cards with multiple types on them. Things like the Artifact Lands, enchantment creatures or enchantment artifacts from Theros, artifact creatures. All of these can often be used with 2 or more of the abilities of the Shattergang Brothers. These cards offer versatility that should not be overlooked. Now that we know how the deck plays, here are a few select cards that I believe fit really well with Shattergang Brothers. Gravepack and Dictate of Erebos can make those 2 or 3 for 1s into real nightmares. Suddenly your one dead creature is equal to anywhere between 1 or 2 times however many opponents you have. Couple these cards with something like Harvester of Souls and get ready to draw half your library. Aspect of the Mongoose and Rancor are reliable and self-recurring enchantments. They also just double as good cards in a pinch, providing us with either Shroud or Trample respectively. Do not underestimate these cards. I did, initially, and I quickly learned my lesson. Illusionist Bracers can act similarly to Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos, but will force your opponents to sacrifice 2 things while you only to sacrifice 1. This is great for artifacts and enchantments since they have no similar Grave Pact effects. Birthing Pod is another inclusion, and is frankly just an incredible toolbox card. It can help you get a silver bullet if you need one, helps us ramp up to a higher CMC creature, and still provides a sacrifice outlet for other effects. It has the added bonus of working really well in tandem with Grave Pact. You're also going to want a healthy dose of creatures that return themselves to the battlefield or to your hand. Squee Goblin Naboo will just not stay dead, which is great for us. He works similarly to other easily recurrable creatures like Bloodghast, Nether Trader, and Reassembling Skeleton. These little guys will provide us with the backbone of our deck, since they can easily be skull clamped or sacrificed and then played back again the same turn. Finally, you're going to want to run a decent amount of sacrifice outlets, because sometimes we're not going to have access to Shattergang Brothers. Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar are sacrifice outlets that can also ramp us. There is also Goblin Bombardment, my current favorite sacrifice outlet and one of the strongest such effects. It can act as pseudo creature removal if we need it, or just ping people to the face and give us much needed reach. Well everybody, that was my review on the Shattergang Brothers. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.